DiJonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing DiJonai Carrington.
This just goes to show that DiJonai has no self-awareness in what's going on. DiJonai Carrington runs on threads immediately. White privilege at Indiana Fever. White privilege. You running around with blonde hair. It looked like you trying to be white. It looked like you trying to be a white girl. What are you talking about, white privilege? The white girl just got a technical foul for something she didn't even do. What are you talking about, white privilege, bro? This is why she should be banned from the league. They always run.
It states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Let's go.
Let us go. Welcome back to the Clark Update. Today, I am here with another big WNBA story, and there is plenty to talk about. Stay with me until the very end as we break down what happened, with the recent reactions, and what could easily happen next. So, without wasting any time, let us jump straight into today's story. Within only 1 week, DJ Carrington saw her entire career begin to fall apart. The most bizarre aspect is that she caused nearly all of the harm to herself. This is not a story of a league unfairly targeting a player or a referee making a very poor decision. We are looking at a hard foul that might normally have blown over in a single 24-hour news cycle. And because of the decisions DJ Carrington made in the following hours and days, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to us. Believe it or not, over 90% of viewers have not subscribed yet. It is free and only takes a split second, but it honestly means the world to us. Did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for the support.
Did y'all see what happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham? Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant too. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The DiJonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called a flagrant two. That's a flagrant two every single damn time in the NBA and the WNBA.
This was the point where DJ Carrington had to make a decision, and she made the wrong choice almost immediately. She explicitly identified the Indiana Fever in a social media post about white privilege just minutes after being let off the court, before she had even made it back to the locker room. And without providing any background information or justification, Cunningham's name was already closely associated with a heated national debate involving transgender athletes in women's sports. DJ Carrington then posted the next Sky vs. Fever game date along with a smiling, happy face emoji.
Carrington tweeted out white privilge from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this. She fouls Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant two, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant two has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it.
Instead of pausing to catch her breath, she claimed the crew punished her due to her race, even though she would later go on to provide 3 alternative explanations in the days that followed. No matter how you try to explain it later, you can't really take it back. I would actually say that this is black privilege, to be totally honest with you, because of her posting this white racist comment right after assaulting Sophie Cunningham on the court is actually black privilege, since she knows the WNBA won't do a single thing of any real significance to address it. And just imagine if the roles were reversed. If Sophie made a comment similar to this, then she would likely never play again. And actually, we just saw this from Coach Sandy Brondello. She got disciplined for making, I believe, a pretty innocent, maybe, offhand comment while talking about Angel Reese and saying that she is a highly protected species. She was suspended and disciplined, and I think if that is the standard, then DJ Carrington should be as well. The post did not remain contained. Within hours, it went viral on basketball social media, shifting from a hard foul debate to a serious controversy about race, intent, and whether DJ Carrington used a heavy term to mask a dirty play. Suddenly, Basketball was no longer the main focus of any part of that broadcast. I am just wondering, is all this some bizarre PR stunt to attract attention, or is the WNBA itself fundamentally broken? That is just you, because you are a good person trying to find some rational reason for this other than what it actually is. It is just pure, simple racism and hate. To be honest, they are mad that the top player in the league is a heterosexual white woman. She does not fit into the compliments of their creed, and therefore, there has been a concentrated effort to go after her. Even her head coach will not stand by her, which I find absolutely hilarious, and at the same time, they do not even know what a woman is. And I am incredibly proud of Freedom and the other gentlemen for discovering who they truly are, and I wish them all the best. Hopefully the league will follow suit, since it is supposedly an all-tolerant league where head coaches wear shirts saying trans women count. Well, here is to that, and I hope they give them their opportunity. And the young lady in France as well. I think this league has gotten away with being racist and disgusting to people, but now Americans are finally catching on to it. Hopefully they get what is coming to them, but I simply would not let my own daughters watch it. Akko pointed out on his program, you struck her in the head, starting the bleeding. Aiko remarked, you did not touch the ball at all. He described the framing of that specific infraction as a result of white privilege as extremely dumb and moronic. In sports media, that is coming from a serious heavyweight. Just days after being ejected from the game, a WNBA player was called uneducated and asinine on national television. That is not just some random internet troll. Now, Carrington's judgment is being put to the test in front of a massive audience by someone with a highly legitimate platform. And when a clip like that goes viral, it becomes the soundbite that follows a player around for a whole lot longer than that initial foul ever would have on its own. And here is exactly where DJ Carrington attempted to change his mind. However, the way she did it was to tell him to try using his critical thinking skills, noting she knew he had studied psychology. She insisted she would never use a term like that as a rhetorical weapon without supporting proof, and went on to say she was the furthest thing from being uneducated on the subject, even bringing up her Stanford education. In addition to defending her freedom to use the term and mocking the person who had condemned her, she is also claiming she never intended it that way, but it is just not clear. Almost no one was satisfied, seeing it as confusion masquerading as confidence. Neither the people who were pursuing her, nor those standing up for her. If anything, because the story was now about more than just that one particular exchange, fans who might have given her the benefit of the doubt after the foul itself began to turn against her, as it seemed more like someone trying to win an argument she had already lost the very second she hit send on that first social media post, rather than someone who was just trying to clear up a simple misunderstanding. If we are paying close attention to what DJ Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the actual concept of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules of basketball. You hit her directly in the head, you drew blood, and you did not connect with the ball whatsoever. So to me, it was just incredibly ignorant and honestly asinine of DJ Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen clear examples of white players making that same foul and getting away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players making that same foul and getting away with it? Yes. There was absolutely no white privilege involved in this specific call. DJ, you hit her right in the head and drew blood. 2 days later, Carrington attempted version 3 of her explanation to the media before Chicago's game against Seattle. This time, she blamed rust from her return after a foot ailment for her timing being off, claiming the foul itself was regrettable and inadvertent. She became completely evasive once more in the actual article, stating simply that she had already spoken with those who had the actual authority to bring about the change she wanted, without ever giving a clear explanation of who she meant or the real meaning behind her tweet. 3 different explanations in just 3 days. A viral post on white privilege that seemed to have nothing to do with the foul only raised more unanswered questions. Every single game for the rest of this season absolutely counts. And the fact that she let her own anger and ego cost the game for her entire team is just incredibly toxic. It goes to show that she has very little respect for her teammates since they all work their absolute asses off. They have all got something to prove. They know they started the season surrounded by all this massive hype. They did not kick things off very strong. Since then, they have been working incredibly hard and playing patiently. When I say patiently, I mean they are learning how to actually run the court and play together. Lots of new pieces, some tough injuries, and players still returning to the court. There have been a ton of changes. They were clearly on the rise, and as a Fever fan, I have to admit they were absolutely schooling us in the first quarter, coming back when we were up by 8 points. DJ Jane herself was balling out, but then she went and cost her teammates the game. Sophie Cunningham, in the meantime, did the one thing that made Carrington look even worse. She kept her composure. After Indiana won, Cunningham was asked directly about that post, and she replied that the league is addressing it and race is completely unrelated. I was thrown out after a similar play last year, and I absolutely earned it. There is no need to discuss race here. It was a gentle reminder that she had been on the receiving end of a blatant foul before and accepted her own punishment without protest. No screaming, no demands. Brands and franchises pay close attention to split-screen moments, where one athlete keeps her cool while another struggles to make sense of 3 separate answers. In those moments, it does not even matter who was actually right on that specific basketball play. It is about who can handle the pressure, and who ends up making a tough situation worse every time a microphone is placed in front of them. After that conversation, Cunningham clearly looks like the more responsible person in the room. Meanwhile, Carrington walks away from it looking like she is still not sure what to say at all. She posted about white privilege after getting ejected, but says it was not about the foul. Can you explain this? No, I cannot. When she tweeted about white privilege, she did it so fast it felt like she had her phone in her pocket right after she got ejected. So, I mean, really, to claim she was not talking about this play or her ejection and arguing that the only reason she got tossed is because Sophie Cunningham is white is just completely crazy. That was a wild thing to tweet, and maybe even crazier to try and pretend it had nothing to do with the play. So, I honestly have no idea what she is talking about, and I do not think anyone else has any clue either. It is just bizarre. This brings us to the point where DJ Carrington's actual livelihood is in serious jeopardy. Carrington became the main face of Reebok's basketball relaunch alongside the N-Gay sneaker when they signed her to a multi-year deal back in April of last year, building on her most improved player and all-defensive first-team honors. It was a huge deal back then, solidifying her as one of the league's rising commercial faces heading into the season. But as soon as this situation blew up, fans immediately started flooding Reebok's social media pages. People were posting that Reebok needs to cancel DJ Carrington's endorsement deal immediately. Major brands always keep an incredibly close eye on their comment sections when negative feedback starts to take over. Oh my God, it is getting real. It is getting very real when it comes to her pockets. That is what I like to see. Pockets getting hit incredibly hard, man. Because somebody needs to hold these players accountable for all the stupidity they have been putting out, because it has been a lot of it. Pure stupidity. And to make matters worse, thousands of people are calling for Reebok to drop their endorsement of DJ Carrington after she went after Sophie Cunningham. Now, this news came out earlier this morning. Reebok is reportedly moving to completely terminate its contract with Carrington rather than risk being associated with a messy dispute, which is exactly what all those fans were requesting. According to several rumors currently going around, you have to consider the true implications for a major brand. Businesses do not take a signed athlete contract lightly. These contracts exist, and marketing strategies are already built around that face. Real money has already been spent. The fact that Reebok is reportedly dropping out so quickly shows how poorly their internal assessment of the situation went. They wanted immediate distance, and they wanted it right now. Because every extra week a company stays involved in a controversy like this is another week their brand gets dragged into headlines they never wanted to be a part of. But when black people do some foolishness, they have to be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I am telling you right now, she absolutely needs to be held accountable. So Reebok, stick it to her. Drop her because she ruined a major brand deal, and she is not even all that on the basketball court anyway. Common sense should have told you not to absolutely clothesline Sophie Cunningham out of nowhere. Do you want to know why? The massive backlash you are going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I am incredibly happy that these brands are finally seeing what we have been seeing all along, a whole lot of nonsense from these players. I am telling you right now, more players need to lose their lucrative brand deals when they do something stupid, especially to Caitlin Clark. This is the hard reality that nobody else wants to state clearly, so let us do it. None of this was necessary. In basketball, flagrant fouls happen. After being ejected, players usually just accept their fine, move on, and a week later, only a highlight reel even remembers the incident. DiJonai Carrington was not sunk by the foul itself. It was the melody following the whistle that sank her. The Indiana Fever were tagged in an immediate post with absolutely no context and a very dangerous term. Her happy expression clearly indicated that she was eagerly looking forward to round 2. There was a confrontational reaction to a critic instead of a clear explanation from the start. And then, rather than providing a direct response, a press conference presented a completely third account of what happened. Every single one of those situations was voluntary. Nobody coerced her into sending that initial post. No one made her retaliate against Emmanuel Acho in a way that seemed far more like winning an argument than actual damage control. And that ongoing pattern becomes far more important than the initial infraction when a major brand is monitoring all of this drama in real time and attempting to decide whether to continue paying an athlete to represent their shoes. Big brands do not sign athletes to sponsorships in the hopes of constantly managing controversy. They sign these athletes hoping that the player won't make headlines that force the company to address controversial issues it never wanted to deal with. DiJonai Carrington, after getting thrown out of the game for her ridiculous flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham, went straight to social media and claimed white privilege as a result. Emmanuel Acho basically pushed back on that and said you cannot call everything white privilege. He said it undercuts the actual idea so many have talked about, and then DiJonai went to X to respond to Emmanuel Acho. She wrote that she never once claimed that the assessment of her foul was white privilege and that it was completely his assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills, since you supposedly studied psychology. Furthermore, she is the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege, telling him to do his research on that. She stated she actually went to school one of the top universities she added to educate herself on this exact subject. She insisted she would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the deep historical and social weight it holds, without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. So, in your face, Emmanuel, what I really want to know is, why were you posting about white privilege from the locker room right after being ejected? What were you randomly sitting in the locker room thinking about, having just been ejected, when you posted about white privilege and, by the way, tagged the Indiana Fever? Laughable. The league front offices are beginning to quietly question if signing her will bring more distraction than actual productivity. Fans who were previously indifferent to her now have a very specific, current reason to jeer her whenever she takes the court. Hey, look at that black girl. She needs to go to jail immediately. You would honestly have to believe she is going straight to jail. This is clear assault, right? This is straight up assault. Now, let me tell you something right now. This is flat out assault. She needs to go to jail. It was premeditated. Go to jail. She needs to be arrested immediately. Go straight to jail. I want her in jail. I want her locked up. She should never touch her. No, I cannot do it. All right. We already know the WNBA is in a tough position right now. They really need to make an example of that Don Imus. That Don Imus needs to be made a clear example of. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. She needs to go to jail for assaulting Cunningham. She needs to go to jail immediately. Let us talk about black privilege for a second. Doing something completely wrong and unethical, and then instead of taking responsibility, she pulls out the race card and plays the victim. Yeah, that is exactly what we just witnessed here. The sheer lack of accountability on DiJonai Carrington's end. That foul was so intentional. Look at DiJonai staring at Sophie's head the entire time, and look at her reaction after. That is pure anger. A normal reaction would be to ask if Sophie was okay or to immediately apologize, but instead she just shoves her. The absolute audacity to go and cry wolf, pull out the fake victim card, and scream about white privilege. All the while making Sophie Cunningham bleed as a direct result of her aggressive actions. People are tired of everything being blamed on race. I would not be surprised if DiJonai did this in direct response to Sophie Cunningham coming out so vocally about protecting biological women in women's sports. This was not white privilege. Under DiJonai's own definition of white privilege, here is some more white privilege. Getting ejected from the game is called the consequences of your actions. Honestly, DJ Carrington should be thankful that an ejection was her only punishment, because she really deserves to be suspended from the entire league. Just contrast that with how Sophie Cunningham reacted when she was on the receiving end of a blatant foul last year. She was ejected, and she openly admitted she earned it. She did not make it a bigger deal than necessary, and that is exactly what separates a bad night from a career crisis. One player let the moment go, but the other just kept fueling the fire with her music. It was post after post and explanation after explanation, until a brand that had bet serious money on her reputation decided she was no longer worth the risk. In fact, that is the real lesson at the very core of this entire situation. Talent gets an athlete signed, but poise is what keeps them signed, and DJ Carrington has never lacked that first quality. There is honestly no real argument against that, as her performance out on the floor speaks for itself. However, this past week demonstrated exactly how fast that composure can vanish. There is simply zero room for error when millions of people analyze every post and quote, watching, as each desperate attempt to clean up the mess only makes it bigger with every explanation. A single flagrant foul did not cost DJ Carrington her shoe deal. Instead, she went wild with her comments in the days that followed, ignoring every opportunity to just calm things down when she had the chance. And until she quickly changes the way she responds to the next big headline, it is highly possible that this Reebok situation will be remembered as just the first domino to fall, rather than the last.